Someone in one of my classes recently asked me if I believe in God. Took me a while to answer. Probably 10 or 20 seconds, which is a long time. And still, I must say that I took my answer from Jordan B. Peterson. That answer being, I'm afraid that God exists. Now, this is Jordan Peterson's third answer to the question. The first being, it's none of your damn business, which is a little funny. The second is, I act as if God exists. In terms of my own belief, I got an answer very similar to Jordan Peterson's, I think, before hearing his answers. But for me, it was much more nebulous. I couldn't quite put it into words exactly. I could describe it, but I could describe it in a huge ass paragraph. I couldn't put it into a sentence or a phrase. I was, and I'm still afraid of what happens after death. If God exists, then what happened to me when I faced him after my life has ended? I think that was the fundamental basis for my answer. And to this day, I've sinned in ways that I feel are wrong. They may not have been specifically written in any holy text, but I feel that I was wrong. Therefore, I'm fearful that an omnipotent being is watching my every misstep, my every failure, my every inability to overcome a challenge, whether it be external or internal. The thing is, having a God is reassuring and terrifying. And I think that Christians focus a great deal on God being a reassuring figure and not that much on terror. In part, this is my experience, so I may be biased, but I get very suspicious when I hear that God will accept me as who I am. Because for one, I don't accept who I am right now. It's a sort of invalidation. Or it's not a sort of, it is invalidation. In blunt terms, it's saying, you're wrong in your thinking. Instead, this is the correct thought. But rarely does anyone say that explicitly. But I would think it's the most common occurrence of invalidation. It's the accidental invalidation, I think. It's the invalidation that wasn't meant to be invalidating, but it is. So therefore, I feel, when I hear about a God who says he will accept me as who I am right now, I can't accept that. At the same time, you could say that I'm too much of a perfectionist, or I don't have self-esteem. Those may be true, but I don't think so. At least on the majority of days. I think for the majority of days I have pretty good self-esteem. I also find it difficult when you say you believe in God, but you aren't doing anything and everything to better yourself, to cleanse yourself of sin. It's like saying the words but not truly believing them. You don't recognize the absolutely terror of believing in God. Because what is God? God is a perfect being. You're not perfect. It's like comparing a single number to infinity. Even the biggest number you can think of is not bigger than infinity. It'll never be. How could you possibly stand next to him? There's a quote that says, "Hell is meeting who you could have been." And I think that's very true. Hell is staring at someone, or staring at yourself, maybe a future version, maybe not. Or rather, the context was, on your deathbed, you see the perfect version of yourself. And that is hell. You see how you could have turned out if you didn't take those missteps. If you hadn't made mistakes. Or perhaps if you made mistakes, you corrected them. And God is a symbol of that person. God is that ideal. And it's like, it's hell to be with the ideal. At the same time, for the most part, I don't think that believers aren't just saying the words just for show, but I also don't think that they're doing anything and everything to better themselves. I mean, I think people want to become better. But at the same time, it's like, will you take the hard steps to overcome trauma? Ask the hard questions. Confront feared ones. Apologize for years of hate and grudges. Extending an arm. Reconnecting. Who is willing to do that? Not that many. Far less than ideal. So in a sense, by not believing in God, I'm cowardly. I don't want to face a being who is perfect. Not ready for that kind of commitment just yet. On the other hand, by believing in God, I take responsibility and therefore force myself to become someone better. To become as close as I can to a perfect being. There's only one argument to consider, but even so, I still conclude that I don't believe in any traditional omnipotent, omniscient, and omnibenevolent God. Not in the traditional sense. Not with those three things tied together. Because I see contradictions. I mean, that's another topic, but I'm afraid of God because of staring at my ideal, which is hell. And therefore, by being afraid of God existing, I believe that he doesn't. I mean, it's a great way to avoid things. This is basically an example of how your mind will make you avoid things, or how a reason to not do certain things. In general, I think that religion serves as a I think it was Marx who said that religion is the opiate for the masses. And while I do agree to an extent, at the same time there are things that are just a little bit strange. Just a little bit strange. And I wouldn't find it surprising if a god out there was pulling the strings to make some funny things happen.